All right, guys, here we are back again, and I haven't done one from Podmatch in a minute for whatever reason. I don't know. I guess I've just done so many off of TikTok and whatnot. But this guy I like because he's very just quick and thorough, and we just literally just started messaging. I got back to his message today. He gave my number. He texted me, and I said, "You want to do one today?" He said, "Yeah." So here we are, which I like, man. I like when people just get on it and just do it. And I mean, if you're busy, you're busy, but it's always nice when somebody just wants to, they just have a message. They're trying to do some good and they care so much about what they're doing, which is why I do what I do because I care so much. And I think I was told something a long time ago. It's like, well, if you want to, if you want to make it in this world, you have to just not care. And it stuck with me for a long time because I care so much and it seemed to always get in the way. And when I stopped caring, it seemed like things started to work out. But then I realized that's not really what was the case. It's just coincidental. And caring is what we need in this world. We need more people that actually give a shit about us as a human race, us as just, just the world in general. We have too many awful, evil people in the world and greed and, there's a lot of the things, subject matters we'll get into today where, there's a lot of, especially kids, are just being taken advantage of and, they don't even know what's out there. They don't realize all the traps they can fall into. And, it's up to us to kind of try to show them because we are the generation or the generations ahead of them. And if we don't teach them, who will? Otherwise, they're going to raise themselves. And that's kind of what's happening now is the internet's raising them. Anyway, that's a whole other subject matter. Maybe we'll get into it. But, yeah, man, you want to just kind of tell us your name, maybe a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no, TJ, I love that introduction. I'm not just blowing smoke. Like a lot of what you shared, if not all of it, is pretty much echoing my heart almost to a T, particularly when you're talking about, a generation that is sort of raising themselves, unless, people that have come before them, not trying to be over the top,
Right.
actually show them the way. It's like, hey, man, like we've seen this horror movie before. Like we know where the jump scares are. You know what I'm saying? Like we know kind of what to expect at certain levels in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is, I am a coach for teenagers that have fallen on hard times in terms of compulsive behaviors, mainly their relationship with the internet. I have a certification in porn addiction recovery. I'm a certified relapse prevention specialist, and I work every day alongside this company called Elevator Recovery, where I get to speak to people all around the world about porn, sex, masturbation, you name it. We talk about it. Nothing's off the table. We're talking about real life every single day, like what's actually going on. And my heart really comes from my own experience, with this type of behavior. Just to make a very long story short, when it comes to this particular world of compulsive behaviors, it's a taboo subject, understandably, but it is something that exists. And the more we pretend that it doesn't, the more the stigma will persist, right?
Right.
So, it's important to chat about, but it is something that I do have experience with. And especially when I was coming up as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old adolescent, what started off as innocent curiosity kind of became my primary mode of escapism. It kind of became something that I became dependent on, which certainly was never my plan. But we're dealing now with a generation that, it's funny because my running joke is that if somebody from our generation or older tries to speak to a young person with the best intentions in the world with the phrase, when I was your age,
Yeah.
in so many ways, one of the first things we got to do in order to be able to help them is understand that phrase does not apply as much as we think it does.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about this day and age of the internet. We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about, the quote unquote fake news, right? Like what's real, what isn't. Even for guys like us that have been around the internet for a minute, it's getting tougher and tougher to kind of, see what's real, what's fabricated, what's artificial, and what isn't.
Right.
And when
Including
it's all you know, oh yeah, and when it's all you know as a young person experiencing the world for the first time, things can get rather dangerous. So we're here to express like, hey, like there is a chance to get to know yourself. There's a way to build relationships with others, and there's a way to feel a part of something without the dependence on a screen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't. How old are you?
I'm 33.
33, because I'm 37. So you and I are roughly around the same age, and we are the last generation that remembers a little bit of school before the internet even existed. Like, the internet was out there,
I was,
but we didn't have it in school. We had these little like Macintosh computers, little like circular things that looked like a bug's eye, and it was just this. It didn't do a whole lot.
yeah,
And our game consoles didn't have the internet. There was no Xbox Live or any of that. So we had to get by on our own ways. And I mean, and again, with the kids, when you say, on my day or, at my time, the internet, yeah, but like our internet was different than their internet. Like we had problems, but the porn thing, even that didn't come until years. I mean, it was well after even AOL. Like, we had websites, there was pictures and things, but for a while you basically had to pay for everything, and no kid could pay for anything. So it was kind of okay. We had maybe a channel or whatnot on our cable, but
right.
it didn't start until, because we used to have these chip boxes, and it would give you like every channel, the premium channels that you didn't have, pay-per-view, or to give you this one channel called the Spice Channel, and that was the porn channel. And we got that, and then all of a sudden cable got smart, and they started blocking those cable channels, and then all of a sudden, Comcast came out, and all of a sudden now it's like, well, what do you do? How do you get your fix? And then the internet all of a sudden exploded, and then you got like the porn hubs and all that, where now porn is free. And that is where, and not just porn, but just so much debauchery just kind of came out of it. Not only just the dark web and many other things kind of came and unfolded. And it's like, we got to see the progression of that. Whereas the kids now, like, they're just living in it. Like, this is just their normal. So yeah, telling them shit that they don't understand, like, we can explain it to them, right? Like, they don't understand that music and cartoons and TV shows and everything used to be so much better. They don't get it. They're just used to Fortnite and, YouTubers and free porn and all these other things. So their minds are so distorted because they don't get it. But when you say that to them, it's almost like you're looking down on them, where you're saying like, yeah, in my time it was this and that. And they're like, they just, they roll their eyes because they're like, you just sound like my dad,
Well, I appreciate you speaking on that, because here's the thing too. I mean, from my experience, before I became a full-time recovery coach, I actually used to work as a teacher in schools,
Okay.
So the same generation we're talking about, like, they were my students,
Mm-hmm.
and I taught during 2020, and here we are, like, obviously the world's on fire, and we're all teaching from home. We're all doing school from home. Everything was weird for a while, right? And especially, I mean, I was a music teacher, actually. I taught K through 12. I've taught everyone from preschool to college students, right? So I've ran the whole gamut. But I think about especially my younger students, like in elementary school, early childhood, right? And here we are trying to, get children away from screens. But meanwhile, in 2020, what did they learn? They learned that essentially everything is going to be found through the screen. Everything from their school, everything from their community, everything from their entertainment, everything to their relaxation, everything from the information that they find. It's all dependent upon a screen.
Yeah,
now, obviously, well, here's the thing. I mean, there needs to be a balance.
Right.
We can't just, automatically go back like horses and buggies and candles. We got to keep up with the times.
Right.
But what essentially I try to do as a coach, again, I mean, we can talk more specifically about pornography, but I think it's really worth mentioning as far as, this generation goes. Yeah, we can, criticize this aspect of them or this aspect of them. All they do is, watch TikTok and, all they know more YouTubers than presidents, right? And I'm here to kind of say it's not all their fault. Because like you said, it's the world that they were raised in. It's the world that was built for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been on iPads since they were 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so a part of my heart to share a sense of connection and a sense of self-awareness and a sense of community, again, like utilizing modern technology without ultimately depending on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I mean, they are, I mean, like when I said textbooks, it's like they don't have textbooks. When we were in school, we had nothing but books. We had to buy little spiral binders and different things. And it's like now they have smart boards and, they get laptops and tablets and things. And it's like everything is dependent on it. So even if you tried to tell them, like, how could you tell somebody who's dependent on one thing their whole life and it does everything in their life? You can't take that from them. You could try to maybe, lower, because again, we all keep saying, well, the kids need to go outside and play sports and stop playing video games. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But you can't just, if you talk down to them too, that like they this is all they know. Like you said, it's not all their fault. I mean, you blame them because sometimes they say stuff and you're like, oh, good Lord, you don't know anything. But at the same time, it's the generations that came before them. It's their fault, right? Like even when we say AI is the problem, well, AI is the problem because we made it the problem. Because we, as people, we're greedy. We can't just have cars that drive themselves. We need to make sure at some point they're going to fly, because we just can't help ourselves. We have to keep pushing it as far as we can, and instead of just saying, hey, maybe this is enough, and we just keep expanding on this, and we keep broadening this avenue of whatever thing we're talking about. And the kids, like I said, they just know this advanced world, and it's only going to become more and more advanced. And that's why the older generations are basically getting pushed out, because if you just have cable and you don't have internet, like they're lost, because the world, like I just got Meta glasses, right? And my grandma was like, hey, I have a friend who, my grandma's 93, and she's like, do you think it would help my neighbor, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do they have a cell phone? She's like, no. And I'm like, no, it's pointless. Like, why have you, if she doesn't have a cell phone, what is Meta glasses going to do for her? Yeah, you can take pictures, videos, you can ask it things, but it's not hooked up to a phone. It's just like a smartwatch or anything else that would be hooked up to your phone. So it's like, and she's like, well, nothing's made for us anymore. And I'm like, I know, but and that's why my grandma, I made sure that she got into the internet. Like, she's kind of a backwards kid in a way. I mean, I love her dearly, but it's like, I made sure she got an iPhone. I made sure to teach her the iPhone. I made sure she understood how to talk to Siri and all these things, because I didn't want her to just die out with the rest of her friends. And so, yeah, man, these kids need, and there's a way to talk to them that's not, and same like the elderly, like there's a way to talk to them without scaring them, because they're almost in reverse. Because the elderly, you want them to be more tech savvy, but without just telling them, hey, you have to go this route and that route, and you need to have smart bulbs and smart lamps and, all these things. You need to how about just try a cell phone, a touch phone. And where the kids, it's like slowly kind of introducing them to what else is out there that's beyond just their screens, without saying, hey, let's take it all away at once.
No, that's good. And it kind of goes back to that value of balance, in both generations, right? It's like, grandpa's generation, understandably, has a lot of life experience. So they've had plenty of knowledge of, like, this is how I know, based on 60 plus years of life experience, I know that things work in this particular way. Mm-hmm. But as technology expands, as culture changes, and just neurologically, it's like, the older we are, the harder it becomes to rewire our inner circuitry, to kind of rewire our mind, but when it comes to a younger generation, it's like, when all they know is just what they're born into, particularly in our case, when we're talking about technology and things, the name of the game is balance. Because I'm here when we become the grandparents, of however many years from now, and our kids are kind of yelling at us like, Grandpa, why don't you know about this? We're gonna be like, what? Nothing makes sense anymore. What's going on? Where's the world I grew up with back when I was your age? And it's gonna happen. It's gonna be really uncomfortable. It's gonna suck, but it's going to happen. But there has to be a sense of balance for us as we grow older, to get with the times, but not lose our sense of connection and humanity, right? Yeah. And that's the value that we, as, wiser, just in the sense that we've seen some things, can instill upon this generation. Understand that they were born into a world that they didn't ask for, And as they are, learning how the world works, how the culture they're born into works, how the technology that they're born into works, but also instill the value of looking people in the eye, instill the value of, we use it as a meme now, but touching grass, like actually expressing what you're thinking and feeling without a filter, without a caption, just being, without this serious sense of FOMO. Like if we're not part of like the cultural zeitgeist, it's like we're kind of like an outcast.
Right.
And it's actually being challenged right now. I don't know if you saw this. Like actually right now, I just learned about this in Australia. They're
going to start banning social media for under 18, right?
Yeah, under 16 actually.
Under 16. Oh, geez.
And yeah, it's so interesting. What do you think about that?
In a way, I'm like, man, maybe that'd be cool because they won't be brainwashed with a bunch of bullshit. But at the same time, man, that just seems like, I don't know. That seems like anarchy. Like that just, I don't know. Like I like the idea because I do like I have a really big following on TikTok and I've become I make money off of it and I do well on it and I meet kids every day and that's how I found that out. I was a kid from Australia. It was like, man, I can't talk to you for 2 years. I'm sorry. In December, the end of this month, I'm done. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry.
Wow.
And I feel for them, but there's a lot of kids. I think there's a lot of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds popping in. I'm like, why are you on here? Like, there's a lot of debauchery, a lot of evil shit on here that you guys shouldn't be seeing. Like, I don't know if a 10-year-old should be on TikTok, but at the same time, like, it's just kind of a part of everyone's world now. Like, what is different between TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and all the other platforms? So I don't know, man. I have kind of mixed feelings about it because I kind of like the fact that kids won't get messed up from the internet for social media, but I feel like they'll just find their fix somewhere else. And I also I like the freedom that we have here in America, but like I said, but there's also, the other end of it is a lot of these kids are just like, hey man, remember when people were just eating Tide Pods for no reason, like there's shit like that happens where you're like, why is this a trend? Like, why are people doing all, and it's like, it's TikTok, it's social media, but I don't know. Should we take it from them too? I don't know. Why? What's your take on it?
I think that's a really interesting perspective. As a creator, and people are inspired by your story and what you share and you putting yourself out there. And for somebody who might not know someone else with a certain disability, it's just like, oh my gosh, like I finally feel someone gets it, right? Something that I'm feeling, someone has been there, so I can follow this person to like get some insight. Again, like someone who has like seen the movie before and they know what parts to kind of brace themselves for. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. That's really important.
I get that a lot
just too. At the same time, for sure. Like when it comes to social media as a whole, and this is kind of where I jump in as a coach, right? Because here's the thing. I can't tell any of my clients what's important to them. It's not my job to tell them this is the way you should live your life. My job is to simply facilitate their own process of developing a sense of self-awareness. So when they're literally asking themselves the questions, what has proven to be healthy for you? What has proven to be unhealthy for you? And what is it going to take to develop a kind of lifestyle that caters to you becoming the type of person that you actually want to be? Right. And when it comes to one's relationship with social media, sure, we can talk about the debauchery and we can talk about, the inspirational stuff as well. There's good and bad to everything. Where I kind of sit is sort of more on a neurological standpoint. When we're talking about the sense of immediacy, right? When we're talking about that sense of I'm going to get what I want when I want it and I want it now, and making that so readily available with that astronomically high dopamine reward and having that be the way they're conditioned to operate so young, it can affect them long term. So I completely see where you're coming from when it comes to, giving people hope and getting to know people that really could need a friend, and could use that role model in a way.
Yeah.
I think that it's an opportunity for someone from a younger generation to get to know themselves, to get to learn those types of values of developing relationships with others, with developing a healthier relationship with themselves, again, without the dependency on their screen. Like, I remember when I was in seventh grade, when MySpace was the big thing, right? Where it was just like, if you didn't have a MySpace, it's like you weren't so long to your chances of being invited into the cool club.
Right.
Like, you just weren't in it, And what would be the equivalent nowadays? Maybe TikTok, maybe Snapchat, maybe something else. If you're not on there, you're just not in the know. You're just like, what's wrong with you? They almost look at you like an Amish person, like, look at you in the 18th century or something, right? And what you and I know that this generation might not is that there is a life beyond the screen. There is a life beyond social media where a lot of what they could learn on, a platform like TikTok, for example, they can learn through putting themselves out there in the real world, the original social media. They have to learn through failure. We have to learn like how to adjust and how to not get what we want immediately when we want it. And I would argue that we would definitely benefit a lot by instilling a value like that at a young age,
Yeah.
Now, once someone turns, a certain age, they have the freedom to do, whatever it is that they want. But I think just in terms of their developmental level, I think it's really, really important to instill the values of things like relationship, a value like, getting to know themselves. So that way they're not depending on an algorithm to tell them who they should be. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, like I see, I post a lot of content, and I also go live. And one of the things with my lives that, I meet people from all over the world, and I meet a lot of kids that come in, and I find out that they're kids. I mean, usually you can tell the way they type and things, but a lot of them come in, and some of them are really sweet, and some of them are really rude. And one of the things that I have, like I said, I'm going to die on this sword. I said, look, I know I'm on social media. I know I'm on TikTok, and I know there's a lot of rude people. There's a lot. And the trolls, you can't do anything about the trolls. The ones who say racist stuff and perverted stuff, they're lost. They're not even. They may not even be real people. I don't even know. But the ones who come in and the first thing they say to me is, "Hey, what's wrong with your eyes?" And without saying hi to me, without showing me respect, those especially when I talk to the kids, I try to teach them. I'm like, look, you may not listen to me. You may think I'm just some whatever. I look young, so I don't look too old. I'm 37, but I don't really. A lot of people think I'm in my 20s, so I look young enough to where maybe they'll respect me a little bit. And I'm like, look, man, you just can't do this. You can't go into somebody's life, and they're like, well, it's just a question. I'm like, yeah, it's a question, but it's impact versus intent. Your intent may have been nice, but your impact was shitty. Like, you can't just go up to somebody and ask somebody what's wrong with them. That's rude, because you wouldn't do that in real life, right? You wouldn't like that if I did that to your grandma in real life. And it's like, well, it's the internet. You just have to accept it. And it's like, no, we accepted it. We've gone too far. We've allowed ourselves to accept this as what is, but it's not right. And maybe some people have to take a stand on this and say, no, kindness is free. We should respect each other, all people, not based on gender, color, and all that other bullshit. We should just respect each other. You're 15. I'm going to respect you, but I have more life experience than you, and I'm telling you, like, this is what it is. And I try to have real deep conversations with them, because it's like, I choose to use my platform for good. And yeah, some of them you can't reach them, but just talking to them on a human level and not judging them and just calling their music shit. And I've done that sometimes just because they've annoyed me. But, it's like some of them you can genuinely reach because they want to listen, and they're young and naive, and they just want to. Some of them are looking for friends. Some of them just want to know, hey, did you watch Stranger Things? I'm like, yeah, I watched Stranger Things. Oh, what'd you think? And then you start a conversation, and then maybe somewhere in there you can teach them a lesson. But if you just say, hey, sex is bad, they're just going to go have sex. If you tell them drugs are bad, they're just going to smoke a joint or do some meth or whatever because their friends are doing it, unfortunately. And
and as someone who's spoken to plenty of recovery coaches, I've heard that type of approach, and I'm sure, like, I certainly did when I was, a teenager. Like, let's say, like, one of my parents found like some porn site in like the internet history or something, and they would try to sit me down and have that type of conversation with me about it, and they're like, just don't do it. And naturally, there's like the light in my mind, like, ooh, why not? You know what I mean? Like, we're 15, of course,
right.
And here's the thing that I've learned, especially now in my role as a coach. It's not that like, sex is bad, sex is the devil. Right. And, again, especially when we're talking about something like porn, it's, again, what's my role as a coach? My role is to encourage you to ask yourself the questions, and my role is to help facilitate. What is it that you want? What's important to you? So it's not a matter of like, is porn bad? Is sex bad? I don't know if it's the right question. It's that, is it healthy for you? Yeah. And so when we're talking about like, is sex bad? Is sex the devil? Is it a matter of like, it's not just about that. It's just about, are you developmentally prepared for this level of stimulation? Yeah. Right? Because we got to keep in mind, they're able to have a conversation and they're awesome, and I have students too, but these are still developing brains, experiencing the world as quote unquote mature as it might seem for the very first time. And especially when you add, like a sexual aspect to it with something like, high-speed internet porn, this is where things can become risky for certain people. I mean, some of those risks include, with early exposure, like, risking the normalization of something like sexual aggression, right? Mm-hmm. It sort of skews the expectations around sex or relationships, increases the risk of being desensitized over time. Yep. It's like when the quote unquote vanilla stuff isn't doing it anymore, then you might want to kind of like get your fix in maybe a different way, right? And there might be an increased tolerance for something like sexual coercion and taking advantage of others sexually, right? Yeah. What we need to understand is that children don't yet fully understand what things like healthy sex, power dynamics, and consent look like, right? And it's so interesting because we're talking about dopamine, right? I mean, it's the feel-good hormone that's released. And we're talking about still developing young brains that associate these periods of intense pleasure with something that they don't fully understand. Right. So putting myself back in the shoes of a 15-year-old, it's like I'm feeling this intense pleasure when I watch this stuff, but then mom or whoever tells me it's bad. Right. So I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but someone is wrong. There's that sort of wrong, like something's off, right? There's a shameful feeling that comes along with a lot of people that fall into like sexually compulsive behaviors. And unfortunately, that's been a very common approach. Like, oh, this isn't how I raised you. Like, how could you watch this filth, right? Stuff like that. And it's sort of like shame, guilt means like I did something bad. Shame is this feeling where it's like, I am bad. Yeah. So they'll look at themselves and their behavior like, well, mom or dad or whoever says that this is bad and I like this thing, therefore I'm bad. Sure. So what do? They'll keep it a secret, right? They'll try to like stay secluded in this and not ask questions when in reality, sex is a thing that exists in life. Right. Porn is a thing that exists in life, and we can only kind of brush it under the rug for so long. Now, obviously, in the program that I've created, the Rebooted Teen Parent Program, this is where I literally walk a parent through how to initiate these otherwise kind of awkward, maybe uncomfortable conversations, and understanding that they don't have to be awkward or uncomfortable. Why? Because they're your kids. It's not like they're strangers. And obviously, in the most ideal of circumstances, they trust you. And it's an opportunity for you to, again, like release that type of shame that they might be carrying around. It's like we can say all day, oh, kids will discover things about sex eventually. And where I'm sitting, it's like, why not have them learn from you? Yeah. So it's an opportunity to take the shame, out of something like curiosity about sex, which, by the way, when you're an adolescent is going to happen. It's normal. So these feelings, again, teenagers are experiencing for the very first time. Bodies are changing, thoughts are changing, emotions that we've never had before are popping up. Inside Out 2 does it hilariously where it's like ennui and like anxiety jump into the brain now.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are these two things that I don't know what I'm feeling. My identity, I feel, is shifted. And it's so important to have a parent or guardian that is leading with a shame-free approach,
Yeah.
But again, I know I'm running my mouth, but
No, you're
getting
good, buddy.
back to
I'm
that.
a ranter too. I get it. No, because one of the things I was going to add to it is it's one of the things you have to show them is what's real from fake, right? These kids love VR.
Yeah,
They love all this shit. They love to watch YouTubers live their lives while they're watching them doing like they're doing nothing with their lives. They're just sleeping in the same pants and underwear they had for the last 3 days as they watch a guy on a yacht with 8 girls, right? They're living vicariously through other people. So they're not really living like OnlyFans is a big thing, right? These kids, they see porn, they see OnlyFans, and they're spending money and they're doing all this shit and they're helping all these other people. But it's like, that's not real, right? You see a guy just walk up to a girl and says, I think you're cute. You should take all their clothes off. And then the girl does. It's like, that's not real. What's real is you should show respect to girls and you should talk to them like this. And I think it's also good if the parents are knowledgeable what the kids are into too, because that's why like suicide is up. Is a lot of these kids, they don't think anybody understands them, and they, especially their parents even, and they just think, and when you just tell them, hey, sex is bad or whatever's bad, Fortnite or whatever, they get backed into a corner and they go, no one understands me. And if they so happily have a disability or they're gay or some other thing, they really think they're different, and I mean, they are, but they really don't understand, and they get lost in, my parents are adults, but all my friends like this, and this is cool, I like this, but my mom does, and you when your parents don't really know and understand you, and they don't try to, just telling them things
right.
are bad or good. And again, like these kids are lost in a world where they have AI and VR and all these things, and they don't know what the hell is real, so they can live their life. I mean, we used to have those, I mean, they still do, where people get married in video games and things, right? I have a friend who plays Dungeons and Dragons. He's 33, and there's nothing wrong with that, but he plays Dungeons and Dragons, and he plays all these fantasy games, and he doesn't date. He just stays in his house and doesn't do anything, and I feel bad for him because he's a great guy. He's a good-looking dude. He was in the military. He's got a lot going for him, but he just wants to live in other universes. And I'm like, man, that's got to, like, I mean, look, if he's happy, but I know deep down he's like, the way he deals with stuff, he deals with depression and things. And man, he's an adult. So there's really not much to do there other than just give him some advice, and just, if he listens, he listens. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Can't help everybody. But man, these kids, like I said, they're growing up in a world where half the shit they their viewership and everything they're into is fake. Like that's like half of what Black Mirror is about. And it's like these kids don't understand like what they're living in this world and it's only going to get weirder and weirder. And it's like look, we had they had those real dolls, right? Where these sex, dolls that you can buy that are really expensive, but eventually we're going to have sex robots, and are we going to get to a point where we just don't need pleasure from a person? Like, and and again, I don't know. We don't have to go down that road. But my point is that there's so much real and there's so much fake, I should say. And I think the best thing is to show them like what is actually real and how you should go about going through this weird world of all this fake, thing. Because to me, my biggest thing that I push in my content and just what I do is authenticity and being yourself. And with all these filters and all the things that you can do, like that's not real. When I click on your channel and your name is Tickletoes42, and or not even that, like I am, I don't know, I'm Jake Paul 46, and it's like, but you're not Jake Paul. Who are you? You're not famous at all. You have 3 followers and you follow 10,000 people, and you just do Jake Paul content, or you just have a bunch of quotes from celebrities. They're not your quotes. You didn't think of this. You're just copy and pasting things. Like this isn't you. You're living in almost in another dimension, it almost seems, and you don't want people to know who you truly are, but your real name is Leonard, and you live in Florida, and you have 2 dogs, and your favorite color is sky blue. Like, why don't you show that? But it's like when you see so many people, like when I get all the time, because I have over 30,000 followers on TikTok, and people will reach out to me and they're like, can you repost my stuff? And I'm like, and I click on it, and it's just somebody else's video of someone else doing something else, and you're like, no, I won't repost this because this isn't you. This is a Denzel Washington thing. Like, this Denzel Washington said this in the movie Flight. Like, this isn't you. So, like, and so that's what I think these kids are like. Some of these kids are just trying to figure out, like, what in the hell, what is this world I'm in? Is this real or is this fake? You know, you always hear the conspiracy theory that we're in a simulation. And it is the weirder the world, the way we're headed, if whether we're in a simulation or not, it's starting to look like it, just the way how everything is, right? It's just like people don't go out and play tackle football anymore, play basketball. They'd rather watch some other kid play Call of Duty. It's like, what? You don't even want to play Call of Duty. You want to watch a kid play Call of Duty. Like, I don't understand that. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, thank you for sharing all that. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that I can relate to just as someone who's gone through it, but also seeing it as a coach, you know? And that's sort of, that essentially is one of those things that makes social media work the way it does. As powerful as the brain is, the brain can't always tell the difference between an actual experience and a virtual one. You know, so when we are engaging with certain types of content, whether it's just like, you know, watching some hype beast on YouTube or something, or TikTok or something, and they're, you know, on a yacht or something, like you said, or even if it's like something pornographic, it's like we engage with content like that enough, we almost believe that we're there. We may not think that consciously, but we're certainly acting as if we are. Yeah. It can be, and this is what I'm saying, when you're at such a young and impressionable age, and literally in your stage of development, when we got to keep in mind, they are learning the world for the very first time. So we can say to them, hey, this isn't real. It may not compute. And once again, it's not necessarily their fault. Yeah. So this is why, not just because I'm doing it, but just the job needs to be done. This is why it's so important and so vital to have a program like this, to have someone walk them by walk with them by their side and be like, listen, I do this exercise with my young clients, and I say, okay, imagine for a moment that you're sitting on a park bench. You're just sitting there, you know, there's like a playground next to you, right? You're just taking in the day, and a couple minutes go by. You're sitting there on that park bench, and somebody sits down next to you. And you look over, and you notice that the person that came to sit next to you on this park bench is you. About 2 years from now, fully rebooted. Now, what I mean by the word rebooted is someone who is living the life that they actually want to live. When their brain is rewired, when they're no longer dependent upon a compulsive behavior, right? And what I have them do is journal out, write out what's going on with that person. Like, how are they feeling? How do they see the world? What do they got going on for them? And they make it as nuanced and specific as possible. So someone can just go, oh, I wanna be jacked. All right, cool. Well, what specifically does that look like? Oh, I want to be rich. It's like, all right, cool. Like, give me a number. Like, what does that actually look like? And you break it down so that way it's not a vague idea, and it becomes more and more realistic, and it's centered around what they personally, deep down, actually feel is important. That's not dependent on an algorithm. That's not dependent on an influencer telling them what they should or shouldn't believe. It's just them from their gut, just illustrating the type of person that they want to be.
Yeah.
Once they do that, then we're ready to work. Then we're ready to kind of dive into, okay, what is it going to take to bring that future you on the park bench to life? So that way it's not just this fancy idea we can have in our minds to motivate us or something, but it's the end result of a process that we can undergo. But we have to understand that there is a process that we must first undergo.
Right.
So, but when you're consistently used to seeing what you want to see when you want to see it, the idea of a process, the idea of following a system can oftentimes feel a little strange, can oftentimes feel a little foreign, I mean, this is, some of the effects of excess pornography viewing or, excess time spent or excess exposure to something like social media. Again, it's not that social media is bad all on its own. It's just, again, we're talking about young, impressionable, and still developing minds. And with that constant sense of immediacy and with excess exposure, it absolutely does affect you neurologically over time. So with all of that being said, man, I love talking about this, as you can tell, because, the future is now.
Yeah.
The future is now. I mean, like, now is the time to have a program like this, to showcase that, like, hey, someone cares enough to not only motivate young students and not only facilitate a process where they can develop a sense of self-awareness and a sense of accountability as technology expands, so that way they can make more informed decisions, not based on what feels compulsive, not based on whatever the culture says, not just based on what someone says is cool or what isn't. It's based on their own values and standards. The moment that they become sure in what those things are, the higher the likelihood is that they'll make their future them on the park bench come to life.
Yeah.
So that's my role. And what I do with parents as well, again, through the Rebooted Teen Parent Program, is I get parents curious. I encourage them to ask more questions because, like you said, parents maybe in the past and maybe even today with the best of intentions will go, it's my way or the highway. Now,
right.
Here's the thing. When you notice that your child has a compulsive behavior or, they're acting up, right? Or it could be a myriad of things. But let's just keep it within the world of compulsive behaviors, right? When you notice that something's off, when you notice some of those red flags, what do? You can either, not to dog them, but again, lovely people, but didn't know what to do at the time. My parents that spoke to me, don't do this thing and just have that be the end of it. It's not the most realistic thing.
Sure.
You could do that, or you can get curious. Curiosity and conversations are the two C's that I encourage any parent listening to instill. Ask questions. Hey, what do you get out of, being on TikTok for multiple hours or watching this type of stuff, whether it's porn or whether it's just excess YouTube? It's just, what is it that you're trying to get? How do you feel? Like what makes you want to engage more? And what do you actually like? What do you actually feel? It's the fact that it's not me versus you. It's not that type of dynamic where it's like my rules versus your whims. It's me and you versus the problem, right? What we have to establish is the fact that the parent and child are on the same team. Now, granted, the parent is the captain of the team, but they're on the same team nonetheless, right? So a child is not going to open up if they don't feel safe. A child is not going to open up if they are experiencing a fear of being shamed. Understandably, I mean, who does? Really doesn't matter how old you are, right? If all you're going to do is judge me, if all you're going to do is just tell me I'm bad, then why the heck would I open up to you?
Right.
But when the parent initiates the conversation with curiosity, asking questions, you have a higher likelihood of instilling a culture within your household that, hey, I still love you. There's a behavior that's not really working, and I notice that it's affecting you, and it seems to be affecting the flow of the house. Let's talk about it so we as a team can come up with a solution together. It's a collaboration, right? You're not trying to coerce your child into a solution. You're trying to create a solution together. But that's not going to happen if your child doesn't actually know what they want. But you as a parent can instill that sense of curiosity, both you about them and your child about themselves. I do watch a lot of TikTok, or I guess I do engage a lot with this porn thing. Why do I do that? And the whole point of the Rebooted Teen program is to walk a young person through that. It's my role, it's my mission, it's my heart to walk a young person through the fact that there's life beyond compulsivity. There's life beyond a sense of immediate gratification, and again, that sense of balance. Technology is going to boom. I'm not saying never use your phone again. I'm not even saying don't ever watch porn again. I'm here to encourage you to get really honest and clear about who you are. What are your values? What do you want? What are your standards? Once you establish that, then you'll be able to make decisions on your own about what's right and what's wrong for you. So, Again, going back to an earlier point that I made, last thing I'll say, it's not simply about, porn's bad, porn's the devil. It's just like, do you know what you want, and will this particular behavior bring you further or closer to that place? Once you have an answer of that, then all you got to do is just to follow through. It's awareness and then action. Those are really the two steps that make up the Rebooted Teen system. And that's what I'm about, and that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, I think we all have like compulsive behavior in some way, shape, or form. It's just, I think we all deal with it in our own ways. And I think a lot of times we don't even, just on an adult human level, we don't really ask ourselves, like, why like when I get sad, I just watch Netflix all the time? Like, why do I do this? Or why is it that when I just can't figure shit out, I just run to YouTube? Why do I do this all the time? Why am I spending out? Your phone tells you every week, you're up 7%. You looked at your phone more, and it's like, why do I feel like I just can't put my phone down? And then sometimes, and I think it's just good, even just for us, middle-aged and older people, just to be like, why do I do these things? And then I think maybe that's the start of that's how you probably got to where you are, is just, you had to figure out your own issues. Like, why do I do this? Because the thing is, one of the hardest things to tell the kids is, hey man, because I get asked a lot, like, how do I grow a following? I've seen you grown really fast in this last few months and this and that. I'm like, look, I can show you some tips and I can give you that and it will help. But the reality of it is, what you need to do is you have to put in that work. And that's what a lot of people don't like to hear. They don't like to, because they look at the YouTubers and they go, my God, he has 300 million followers and he's famous and everyone knows him. And it's like, yeah, but some of them got lucky for sure, but some of them actually got lucky, but also put in a lot of work. There was a lot of days they put out videos that no one watched, and day in and day out, they got rejected and told no. And that's one of the hardest things about the younger generation, is they don't understand work ethic. Like, you have to really try. Like, I know we live in this instantaneous Tinder type world where you can just swipe, yes or no on something or someone, but that's not reality. That's virtual reality. That you can get whatever you want in that world, but in the real world, you don't just go up and get a job because you want it. You don't just get $1 million. You don't just stumble upon a gold pot with $1 million in it. No, you actually have to go out and earn it. And yeah, some people do get lucky. Some people are born into wealth and yada yada yada. But for the majority of us out here, we actually have to do the W word. We have to work. And we have to try hard.
No, it's good.
And so,
it's so important. It's funny because a lot of what the program is all about is, it's sort of like a dojo for self-awareness. You know, like real talk. Like, how often do we, even in our 30s, will just like stop what we're doing and just ask ourselves the question, like, what am I feeling right now? It's maybe not as immediate it's not as immediate of an action. Understandably, it can feel like almost like a foreign thing. We're just so caught up in the day to day, and especially when we have the influence of like our smartphones. It's not that they're the devil. It's just like we don't want to lose that sense of, hey, am I aware of where I'm at internally to the point where it might be affecting me externally? Because if we don't prioritize that sense of awareness, it certainly will affect us in certain ways, whether it be in our behaviors, whether it be in our relationships, in our jobs, and other opportunities. So the more aware we are of what's going on internally, the higher likelihood we have in controlling what comes out of us externally. And one of the simplest ways, it's one of my favorite exercises, if I can geek out for 2 seconds.
Sure.
It's called dialoguing. So I learned it from this really, really awesome book. It's called Breaking the Cycle by George Collins. It has radically changed my life. And basically, it's a journaling exercise. What you do is you take a seat with a notebook, pen, paper, and you have a conversation with what George Collins, who's like a sex and porn addiction counselor, calls a subpersonality. So it's basically a part of your personality. So let's say if somebody is struggling with a compulsive behavior, they will literally have a written out conversation with that compulsive part of them. Like maybe the part that's more inclined to do something like watch porn, in my case, with the clients that I work with, right? So it's literally like you write it out as if it's a movie script or something. So it's like, my name is Chris. So I might say like Chris, and then I'll like write something, and then maybe I'll say like addict Chris. Like I'll give it like its own name, this subpersonality, and then it'll say something, and it'll kind of go back and forth between those two subpersonalities. Now, just from that one exercise alone, it accomplishes a couple things. Number one, it separates you from that feeling. It separates you from that compulsive nature in this sense. Recognizing the fact that you are not it, and it is not you. Sometimes when we're feeling something overwhelming, whether it's just a sense of stress, or if it's a season of depression, or if it's just something really uncomfortable, right? We'll just kind of sit in it and wallow in it. And while processing it is part of the process, sometimes we'll identify with it so much to the point where we'll literally say, I am depressed. I am this feeling. I am this sensation. As opposed to, I am feeling depressed. I am experiencing depression right now. This is just a subpersonality that is taking a hold. This is a neurological holding pattern that is taking a hold right now. I don't have to identify so intimately with it. And doing an exercise like dialoguing can begin that type of separation process, but not in this sort of like, cut off a limb type of thing. It's not a matter of like, shoe thought, don't bother me. It's just a matter of like, you are a part of me. You are a part of my subpersonality. And I don't know who needs to hear this, man, but all a feeling wants is to be self. That's it. It's not like it's out to get you. It's not out to destroy you. It's just information that your nervous system is giving you about yourself. That is literally what a feeling is. It is you telling you about you. And the more we try to distract ourselves from it, the more we try to suppress those types of sensations, we're never going to actually know what we're actually feeling. And it will manifest in ways that, like I said, will cost us opportunities, might affect us in our relationships and in different aspects of our life. Yeah. The way out is through. And doing a seemingly simple exercise like dialoguing, if you're into getting to know yourself, as far as developing a sense of self-awareness, as far as, coming at your mental health recovery journey from a place of compassion, this is a great way to start. It's really practical, doesn't take a lot. Literally, you can just turn your mind off and just talk. Turn your mind off and just write, because you're giving that part of you the chance to express itself. Literally, you're giving it a voice, you're validating its existence, and you're just letting it express what it wants to express. That doesn't mean you have to follow its every whim, but you're at least giving it a chance to express what it wants. You're letting the feeling be felt. And that's such an important thing. And it's such a healthy thing. And it's such a human thing that you don't have to run away from. So with all that said, if anyone's looking for a practical way to get started, whether you have a compulsive behavior or not, it's a great way to develop a sense of self-awareness out of a compassionate place, as opposed to a place of maybe suppression or avoidance. Dialogue is where it's at. It's kind of the bee's knees.
Where can they find it, your program?
They can find that exercise. I go into, really practical detail as far as like how every individual in their own reboot journey can go about doing it in the Rebooted Teen program. I'll just plug this really quick. They can find it all at rebootedteen.com. That's where you'll find all the free resources in the Rebooted Teen parent program, just to really introduce a parent like, hi, I'm Chris Rogers. Like, just so you're not just letting any Joe Schmo off the internet. Like, I explain who I am, what I do, where I come from, my background, my certifications, and all that. And yeah, we begin some of those practical things that families can start to instill now, so that if they feel that, putting their teen in the Rebooted Teen program is the right move, they've already got a bit of that muscle memory built. They've already kind of practice that sense of self-awareness, and they're kind of ready to go deeper, to the point where we realize that the whole thing about addiction, it's not just the thing, right? Like, it's not just the substance. It's not just the behavior. It's the place from which it's coming from. That's what the science project is. It's getting more in touch with that thing. What's this sort of internal magnet that is like gravitating me closer to this thing that I might realize logically has proven to be kind of unhealthy for me, but I keep on going back anyway. What's that thing in me? It's not just the thing, but the place from which it's coming from. It's that internal thing, right? And once you get more hip to that, your likelihood of rewiring your mind to a healthier place just increases astronomically. And that's what those two programs that I had are really all about. And I speak so much about it because this is honestly something that I wish I had when I was young. You know what I mean? And I think it's really, really important stuff, especially for this generation. I think that it's a generation that yearns for a sense of just authenticity. Like, can I actually trust you? Like, is the thing that I'm watching or experiencing actually real?
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, so for anybody listening, if they're curious or interested in learning more, they can check it out, rebootedteen.com. Check me out at Rebooted Teen on Instagram. You'll find some samples on there and some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that's my work. That's my heart. That's my life.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. Thank you for sharing, man. It was cool. I hope
dude, thank you so much.
Hope we can keep in touch, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're an awesome host, and I really appreciate your insight as well.
I appreciate it, man. I try to make it as easy as possible because for me, when I started doing this or just in anything in life, having disabilities, life is already hard enough. And I was like, how can I make this just easy? Oh, I know. Just have an unfiltered, free filter kind of conversation where you can just talk to a person. And, it's like, that's one of the things that, our generation had, phone conversations, right? We just got to talk to each other.
Yeah.
We didn't have emojis. We didn't have texting even. And it's like, I think it's one thing that's really missing. I mean, and it's part of your business is communication. just communicating with the world, with your friends, with your family, just anybody. I think that's like, I mean, we just got out of Thanksgiving, we're going into Christmas, and you see your kids and everybody's around the dinner table if you're lucky, and everyone's staring at their phones. It's like, yeah, man, like we need to just communicate, just talk to each other more and understand and what's going on. How can I help, or how can I assist you in helping yourself, whatever. But I think
Mm.
communication is one of the biggest problems with the world now. Is we don't listen to each other, we don't talk to each other, we basically talk over each other, or it doesn't matter what that other person has to say because they vote that way or they look that way or whatever. And
Oh,
we don't care about each other really anymore, and that's
yeah.
the problem. And I think if we sat down with each other, I think one of the biggest atrocities is, and I don't vote, I'm not into politics, but is when you see a president, no matter Democrat or Republican, give a speech and half the room agrees with everything he says and the other half disagrees with everything he says. And I think personally that's bullshit. And I feel like if you put a Black Panther and a Klansman in the room, they could at least agree that dogs are cute or purple's a good color or something, right? They can't disagree and agree on everything. That's bullshit. Like, that's not real. And so I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another thing that kind of messes up people, warps their brains, is they see stuff like that and they go, oh, okay. And it's like, no, man, that's why we have to communicate. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but we could still like each other at the end of the day. We can still respect each other. We could have a heated
Exactly.
debate. We could have a heated debate on abortion or, climate change or whatever. We can do that, but still respect each
Right.
other's boundaries and still love each other at the end of the day and say, look, man, you're my neighbor, you're my cousin, whatever. It doesn't have to go any further than, you know what, I agree. We have to just agree to disagree, and let's talk about something that we both agree on. Breaking Bad's a damn good show. Whatever it is, like something. Because so my point is just, like I said, communication. I think if we communicated and like what you're doing, even what I do, and what many other people are trying to do out here, is just show the world, man, there's another way, and there's a good way of just kind of purifying all the bullshit in the world and just showing you, hey, man, there's still hope in this world. There are people that are
Absolutely.
trying to make this world a better place, and we're all just trying to adapt, right? You and I came from a different time, but we're adapting. Whether we like to or
Yeah.
not, we have to, because otherwise we're going to be like
Yeah.
our grandparents or our parents. We have to not get ran over.
Yeah.
So we may not use the lingo, but we may use the technology or whatever. We got to try our best. And so, yeah, man, I really appreciate what you're doing, man, and keep doing it, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the encouragement, and I appreciate your heart for, giving people a space to, again, like instill that sense of hope and just encourage others. And there's more than one way to do it, and I think you've got an awesome platform here. So, like, sincerely, not even trying to butter you up.
No, man, I appreciate it.
Thank you for the platform.
Yeah, man. All right, man. You have a good night, man. Thanks for everything. And like I said, we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, TJ. All the best.
See you, brother.
All right, peace out.
See you, man. All right, guys. This is the second podcast of the day. So I'm gonna go just maybe watch a show for a little bit. Not Breaking Bad, because I've watched that show many times too. I just like throwing it in there because I love Breaking Bad. But no, yeah, man, I'm just gonna go chill. But I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. It was different from what we've been doing, and I hope it makes you think. Because we do live in this world of craziness, man. It is weird to see, like, if you think about it, like, what is real now? What is fake? I have people come in my lives and go, "Are you AI?" And I know they're just trolling, but man, one day they're not gonna know. There's gonna be an AI TJ maybe. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, guys, I love y'all, man. I hope you guys have a great week. Yeah, I'm tired. I haven't been sleeping well, so I'm just trying to get my shit together. But Bullet's here, chilling, sleeping next to me. I'm not gonna bother him. He's been ornery lately, so yeah, I'm just gonna leave him be. But thank you guys for everything, and take care of yourselves, and please find something to be thankful for today. And especially if you have good health, man, or you got family, you got good friends, whatever, you got a job, you got a place to stay. Like, these things are so valuable, so important. You still have that inner child in you. You got some peace of mind. Just be thankful for something, man, because I promise you, somebody out there wants it. They want what you have. They would do anything. They would love to be you, be in your position. And I know maybe your position is a little scary and it's not it's shaky. It's not where you want it to be, right? But there's always somebody wanting to be you because they have less. And so just think about that every now and then, all right? All right, guys, I love y'all. Have a good day, and yeah, bye.